To discuss about this interesting topic, Revenews International will bring you an exclusive interview with U.S. Ambassador to Indonesia, Scot Marciel. Let's take a look. Welcome, this is Revenews International's exclusive interview with His Excellency the Scot Marciel, the U.S. Ambassador to Indonesia, to discuss about interesting topic about the current U.S. economy situation and also the future cooperation with Indonesia. Now he's here in MNC Business for Revenews International. Welcome to the Revenews International. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, you look great. How's it been doing?
It's been very good. Thank you. We're really enjoying a very good relationship with Indonesia and looking forward to making it even stronger.
As you know, I discussed about the current situation of the U.S. economy. Could you please share what is special now? What need to tell to the world?
Well, it's good news. The U.S. economy grew last year by over 2%, which is not as fast as Indonesia's, but pretty good. And this year, most economists are predicting 2.5% or 3% growth, which for us is quite good. So we're pleased to see that our economy is recovering quite well.
Very well, very well. So how is it after 2012 was the hardest time for every country in the world, including maybe Indonesia also and the other country? How it get recovered very well, and what's the strategy?
Well, clearly in 2008, 2009, we had a financial crisis and our economy declined sharply. Banks were in big trouble. Since then, we've had a steady recovery because, A, the government's put in money, stimulus money, to keep the economy going. Our Federal Reserve, our central bank, has been very active in keeping the money supply very strong. And basically, our homes, our people have paid down their debts and started to buy again. Our companies are very profitable and beginning to hire people quite steadily.
So what people see about the declining economy of the U.S., what is actually about that? What's wrong?
Well, actually, it's a little bit of a myth. We did have an economic downturn in 2008, 2009, as I mentioned. But since 2010, our economy has been growing very steadily. As I mentioned, more than 2% growth last year. Housing market is really recovering. I think people tend to focus on the budget debates in Washington, which have been very difficult, and assume from then that the entire economy is in crisis, which is, in fact, is not the case.
It's only about when the second term of administration of Barack Obama also started. Do you see that this is about political situation or maybe the actual condition of the economy?
Well, Indonesia and America are both very vibrant democracies, so we have, just like you do, we have a very vibrant debate, political debate. But I think if you look beyond that and you look at the state of the economy, most economists now are saying it's quite healthy. We have a tremendous energy boom, as we found all kinds of new energy resources. As I mentioned, housing prices have gone up, and we've created more than 1 million new jobs just in the last 6 months. So it's going quite well.
According to job creation, this is an interesting topic since it's also affecting the capital market and everything. Could you please share more about this job creation in the U.S. and so many?
Well, at its worst, our unemployment rate hit about 10%, which is quite high for us. Now it's dropped down to about 7.5%. Still a little bit too high, but a significant improvement. We need to create about 150,000 to 200,000 jobs every month to keep unemployment declining. And last month, for example, we created about 240,000 jobs. And as I mentioned, over the last 6 months, 1 million jobs. So we want to do even better, but we're on a pretty good track.
Now, talking about 2013, it's March already, and then we're coming April. So this is after 3 months. What's going on in the U.S.? What's the good news?
Well, I think the good news is manufacturing is growing and creating more jobs. As I mentioned, we have this incredible energy boom. We're probably going to be the world's largest producer of oil this year or next. The housing market is recovering, which took a big hit during the crisis, is recovering very nicely. Prices are going up. The stock market is near all-time records. So there's a lot of very positive things happening, and we're achieving this even while we're cutting government spending to reduce our deficit.
About the micro and macro economy, could you please share one by one about micro first? What's going on in domestic U.S.?
Well, micro, I think the key is we're still a very innovative economy. Our companies, Apple, Google, Facebook, etc., they're continuing to find innovative ways to create new products and services. our companies are sitting on huge amounts of money. They're very profitable. And as a result, they're starting to hire, they're investing. So that's very good. On the macroeconomic side, inflation is still very low. Growth seems to be increasing. And our budget deficit is declining quite steadily. So we still have work to do, but we're in a very good track.
Trading activities, how is the export, import, and in what sector that still show a good performance?
Well, our trade continues to go up, both exports and imports. We're exporting a lot of different things, equipment, of course, software, films, a lot of ideas and creative talent that we actually export, as well as agriculture, which is a very important export for the United States. Imports, we're buying all kinds of consumer products, cars, electronics, as well as certain types of food and agricultural products.
So what about the population, and then the other issue about the job creation again also show up again and again? What has actually happened about that? Is it showing also the decline in several sectors, like manufacturing is going great, but how is it the other?
Well, when the crisis hit, we lost a lot of jobs in construction, which is a big part of our economy, and manufacturing had been declining for quite a while. What we're seeing now is that the construction jobs are increasing quite a bit. Last year we created, or last month, excuse me, we created about 50,000 jobs just in construction. And manufacturing, as you said, is starting to develop very well, partly because energy is now very cheap in the U.S., which makes it very effective and very efficient for our companies to manufacture in the U.S.
Let's discuss about the energy later, about the cooperation with Indonesia with energy situation. But how is it about the Federal Reserve deciding this, since every decision the U.S. made also affected all capital market in the world, including Indonesia? How is it doing now?
Well, the Federal Reserve has continued to keep interest rates quite low as a way of encouraging economic growth. And I would just stress that when the Federal Reserve promotes solid economic growth like that, it has a positive impact on the world economy. Because as we grow, we buy a lot of goods from other countries and help other countries grow. So it's going quite well.
It's going quite well. How is it the investment climate? Since, or maybe the plan of expanding the business of the U.S. company to the other country?
Well, in terms of investment, one, we're welcoming huge amounts of investment into the United States. We're very open to investment, and billions and billions of dollars are pouring into the U.S. in all different sectors. U.S. investment outward also continues. I think really what you used to think of as U.S. or Japanese or Korean companies increasingly are global companies, and they invest wherever the environment is best for them, and we think that's a good thing.
So what sector that become the most interesting for the investor to come to the U.S.?
Well, lately there's been a huge amount of investment in energy. As we've developed new technologies that enable us to get more natural gas and oil from places where it used to be difficult. That's been a huge boom, and we've been getting tens of billions of dollars of foreign investment in the energy sector.
You mentioned also about the good performance in agriculture. Could you please share about that more?
Sure. Well, you know, people tend to think of the U.S. as a pretty mature economy, so they think about manufacturing and services, and those are important. But for us, agriculture has been a huge part of our economy, both to supply our own food needs, but also exporting. So soybeans, wheat, corn, beef, these are areas we export a lot, and then we buy a lot. Including from Indonesia, huge amounts of agricultural products.
This is interesting, since Indonesia is an agriculture country. We also imported some commodities like soybean from the U.S. Do you see that the future cooperation between the U.S. and Indonesia in the agriculture sector will be doing very well, or how's the progress?
I hope it'll go well. I think there's great opportunities here because we produce different things. We're particularly good, for example, at, say, soybeans and corn and wheat and beef. Indonesia is really strong in other areas. We buy a huge amount of fish, shrimp, coffee, cocoa from Indonesia. And so I think there's opportunities for even more trade, that we can provide things that don't really grow very well in Indonesia and buy from you the things that you make better than us.
Any plan for maybe the agriculture company to expand their business here? Or?
Well, they are. A lot of agricultural companies from the U.S. are active here. A number are investing here. Companies like Monsanto and Cargill are investing tens of millions of dollars in Indonesia and doing a lot of production working with Indonesian farmers.
Very, very impressive. Now, before we talk further about the cooperation in Indonesia in the future in several sectors, any strategy that will be applied in 2013 maybe in the U.S. economy? Share a bit, please.
Well, I mean, we're a market-led economy. So we generally believe in trying to create good conditions to allow companies to grow and invest and hopefully create a lot of jobs. So we'll continue to try to improve our own investment environment. And at the same time, our President and our Congress are working on very difficult issues around our budget. And as I mentioned, they've already cut the budget deficit pretty dramatically. And there are ongoing negotiations for a longer-term budget deal to set us on a good path for the long term.
Very, very interesting. Still many questions that I want to ask, but after this one.
Okay.
We'll be right back after this one. Stay with Revenews International.